How many times have you heard people say, well, we all got to die of something? Hi, my name is John Rose. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to take a closer look at some of the silly statements people say to those people who are concerned about other people's lifestyle choices, whether it's to get them to drink less or smoke less or exercise more or eat better. And we hear that comment quite often, don't we? Oh, we all got to die of something. You know, if I'm going to die and I'm going to choose, I might as well choose the food I want to eat. I can't imagine not eating the food I want to eat and only live a couple extra years. Well, this is part of the problem right here. That's what probably most people think, is that we only live maybe a couple years longer. We might not even do that. Might not get what we need, might die sooner. And it's not going to be worth it. It's not a fair trade to only live a couple years if I'm miserable, right? That's what people think, and that's the excuse they use. But the reality of this statement is that it's not a matter of a couple years that is going to extend your life. It's more like 20 or 30 possibly. And again, it's not the quality of our life, it's the quality. I met an interesting man last week and started to tell him about my YouTube channel, and of course he used that one line, oh, we all gotta die of something. I immediately said, but yeah, but you don't want it to be your fault. And it isn't so much how long we live, it's a matter of how whether we're alive when we're living. You know, we want to be vibrant, we want to be active, we want to be able to play at the very end of our life just like we were playing at the beginning of our life. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any way I'm going to slow down in that area. At the age of 64, I'm just as flexible now as I ever have been. My endurance is nowhere near where it was at one point in my life where I was putting in 7-8 hours of exercise every day. But I'm never going to work that hard to get at that level. I have no desire to do that anymore. But otherwise, in every other area of my life, I just can't relate to aging like everyone else. So the diet I've been following for the last 28 years has done so much for me, and the whole idea that I wouldn't enjoy what I'm eating is just totally ludicrous. I enjoy the food I eat now more than I've ever enjoyed other food that I've eaten. And I don't just have the short-term relationship with the food as we all do when we eat it, yum, 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 yum. But now I have that long-term relationship with it because I know that's why when I wake up in the morning, I bounce out of bed with the vigor of a child. I literally get up and bounce out of bed. And I'm like that the way the whole day. I'm even out here skipping many times throughout the day. I feel so good. It's an illusion that we think that we all gotta die of something. So this video is going to be devoted toward the silly explanations or statements that people give us, and then let's all come back with some really good comments on what do we say to these people when they tell us that we all gotta die someday anyway, right? Or how about this one? My time to come is when the good Lord tells me it is. I have nothing to do with it. Good Lord's going to tell me. That's wrong. You are the one that's going to be the reason why you die. Our problems are self-inflicted. When you die, the chances are, if you're not living this type of lifestyle, it's going to be your fault. So when you die, you don't want it to be your fault because you think that what you're doing is a fair trade. Most people, once again, just don't know what they're missing. And I was thinking of that documentary by Kraus, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and I could really relate to that video. If you guys seen it, I'm sure you have, most of you. If you haven't, be sure and watch it, where he spent the last 30 days of his 60-day solid food vacation on Jesus, going around the country telling everybody about it. And I could relate to it too well, because when you tell people too much too soon, you hear the same comments. Like, oh, I can never do that. That one really gets me right there. How do they know they can never do it? They don't know. But they just guaranteed they won't be able to because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They end up basically shooting themselves in the foot when anybody says, I can never do that. And yet you hear that comment quite often. So let's start a comment section for that one right there and come up with some good feedbacks or comebacks to that. And y'all can have fun with it if you want. If you want to turn it into humor as you do it and mix it up with good answers and humor. As long as it's tasteful, let's make this fun. and a good exercise to help us on the hero's journey. Because we hear the same things over and over and over. Even if it's something as absurd as, where do you get your protein? Which, of course, is one of the stupidest comments you ever hear when you tell people that they shouldn't eat an animal. And of course, I'm not really talking about those as much, but we can include those here if you want to. What are some of the silly questions people ask us about eating a species-specific diet, or even just getting people to make better choices in life? Try to fine-tune those lifestyle choices of theirs a little bit. And then what do people say? They just don't think it's worth it. They would rather continue doing what they're doing because they think they're getting something out of it. And in many cases, what they're dealing with here is it's an anxiety that we all have if we don't have enough biophotons in our cells. That's the sunlight energy, coherent sunlight energy that we store in the nucleus of our cells that I talk about all the time in my videos, called a biophoton. When we don't have enough of those biophotons in our cells, we know deep down something's not right. And that's when we turn to the wrong food or sex or drugs or money or relationships, thinking that's what we need to fill the void that we're trying to fill. And what we're missing is those biophotons. And remember, we stopped eating biophotons long ago, and that's why we've got the wrong mentality. So there are so many benefits to going back to eating our biophotons that until you do, you can't really put things in perspective. That's why I always tell people, you need to test an idea as time has come, because you really don't think it's going to be a fair trade. And again, we're not talking about just a couple years here, we're talking about several decades. And the quality of decades, the man I talked to the other day, 74 years old, really big belly, you'll lose 30, 40 pounds in 30 days, and it's going to be all stuff you got to get rid of, and if you don't get rid of it, it's going to kill you. It's going to be your fault. And you've been told this, and if you don't get rid of it, what's wrong? Don't be afraid. You won't be hungry, your energy level skyrockets, and you are literally getting rid of the cause to most of your diseases and problems that are affecting you in ways you don't understand, because it's put in so slowly. Just like the frog that's put in the water and turn it up, and you got a boiling frog before you know it. Throw him into a pot of boiling water, he's going to jump out. We're just like that frog that's been put in water that's been heated up slowly. And that cesspool inside of our belly is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just don't realize how it's affecting you. But when you get rid of it really quick, man, I'm telling you, it's something you can notice. It gets your attention. It's the brand new reference that I keep talking about that people need to have, so that they won't go back to the same lame excuses we hear over and over and over and over. So they can rationalize their rapacity and maintain no control whatsoever. Remember, the first step to paradise, according to Tolstoy, is to gain back self-control. That's a solitude vacation. Take away the one thing that's controlling you more than anything. That's our food. And an interesting point that should be made by everybody who says, well, I love to eat too much to not eat what I like. If you're 74 years old and you've got a belly that big, the first sign, the first symptom for 50% of people of heart disease is death. And then if you have a stroke, you could end up with the last years of your life paralyzed in a wheelchair wearing diapers. You got to understand that if you really like to eat and you have something like that happen to you within a short period of time, which statistically you're about right, you only got a couple years of eating left. Change what you eat, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to live a couple extra decades, and you're going to love the new food, trust me. You're delusional if you don't think you're going to love to eat anything when you're hungry, especially when it's the food you're designed to eat to begin with. Is it different? You bet it is. And that's why it's going to extend your life a couple decades instead of a couple years. And now look how much more food you're going to eat. And the quality of your life from 74 to 94 is going to be better than it was from 34 to 54. I can guarantee you that. I guarantee you. I know I've coached too many people. Just talk to Max Garrett, right before I started this, Max, hope you're watching my videos. He's seen me out here every Sunday as he goes by, and I told him about my seminar on how to take a solid food vacation. That's the solution, my friends, for all of us. If you're new to this, you have no idea what it's all about, and you want to understand it in the only way you really can, you have to do it. There's no experience like a fact learned from your own life. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. Good old Chinese proverb. We should heed those words, because until you have the experience, you're going to really struggle trying to wrap your brain around it. In fact, it's going to be impossible to appreciate what this way of life is all about until you experience it. And again, that's why I like the solid food vacation. It's not threatening. Don't even think about what you're supposed to eat after the solid food vacation. Just test it. Within 1 week, I can guarantee everybody that's especially over a certain age or has a certain size belly, even if you're young, 1 week you're going to have a light bulb go off over your head, because you're going to realize what I've been saying is true. You still got a bunch of crap in there and it's not looking pretty. And it's going to keep coming week after week and month after month. And you might be surprised how many months it takes before you finally get rid of stuff that's looking horrible and you know it's old. Best experience I've ever had in my life was when I took my 7th juice fast solid food vacation on nothing but juices. Went the distance, 90 days. Crawled out a rut I didn't know I was in. Every level in my life, physically, mentally, emotionally, communally, spiritually, it all went up levels. Hard to explain a revelation. It's impossible. You got to do it. And I can guarantee you, when you do, you're in for a treat.